Welcome to the fourth challenge of Beginner Month for Preppin Data. So you can see that I've got the flow built here, and as it's quite a short flow, I thought we could build it together. So let's pick up our flow card input first of all. And we know that our first task is to union together our flow card, our non-flow card, and non-flow card 2 tables. So we could bring in each of those separately and then use a union step, but I'm going to use a wildcard union instead. So go to that tables section of my input step and go to union multiple tables instead of just a single table. And you can see that if we hit apply right now, we would include all 4 of these tables in our wildcard union, which isn't quite what we want. We don't want to include our seat plan there. So we'll introduce a worksheet filter to help us find just the tables that we want. So we know that the word card is kind of the word that is in common between the tables we want to include. And we know that it's not at the start of the table name, so we put a star there to say that the word card is within the worksheet name. I'm just going to click away for a moment to show you how if I ended my worksheet filter there, I would have included the flow card worksheet and the non-flow card, but I'd be missing this non-flow card too. So I need to also add a star there to say there might be something after the word card as well. And then when I click away, then I get all 3 of those tables now. And if I hit apply, then that change is made and I have all 3 of these tables included in my union. So I'm going to get rid of the file paths here in my input step because that will just repeat PD 2024 week 4 input.xlsx on every single row of data. That's not going to be super useful for us, so we'll just remove that there. And I'll add in a step there to just have a look at the data, and I can see that I have in my table names all 3 of those tables, so that's all great. If we look above, you'll see that I always put a little view step, a clean step that I call view after the input, so I'm going to maintain that as we build this. So next up, we need to create a calculator field to tell us if a passenger has a flow card or not. So that field should be called flow card with a question mark at the end. My typing is slow at the moment because there's a cat on my keyboard, so I'm just having to reach round. But we'll say if that table names field is equal to, in quotation marks, flow card, then we want to have a Y for yes, else let's have an N for no. Why not? And always make sure we end our if statement with an end so that the calculation is valid and everything is working as we expect it to. Great. Now we don't need this information anymore about the table names, so I'm just going to remove that field as well. Next up, we want to aggregate our data so that we can count the number of customers who are choosing certain seats. So we want to group by their seat. So I'm going to drag that seat into grouped fields. I'll also drag the rows into grouped fields and the class. And then also that flow card, that needs to go into the grouped fields as well. And then for the customer ID, rather than it being a sum, we want to do a count. Now I had a quick debate in my mind, do I want to do a count or a count distinct here? But I concluded that a customer may travel more than once on Preppair's flights, and so we want to count each time that customer flies rather than just counting the customer once. Okay, so that's our data set that we are now ready to join on to the seat plan. So I could drag in the seat plan again, but looking at it actually, it's already in my data workflow. I might as well just join on to this input that we already have. So this is just showing us the class, the seat in the row, which is very similar to the fields that we have here of the class, the seat in the row. So I'm going to drag that down to my aggregate step and create a join. And you can see now that that is creating a lot of duplication if we're just joining on the seat field as Prep is doing by default automatically. So we come down to the bottom of our join step on the left here and see that we have these recommendations for joining on the row as well. That sounds sensible, and also joining on the class. So let's do both of those things so that it is actually the class doesn't actually matter in this instance, does it? I noticed that that number went down to 578 already. The class isn't that important, that's just telling us information about the customers who are sitting in those seats, but we only care about at this stage if there are any customers at all sitting in those seats. So at the moment we see that all 578 of those seats that we have in our data for where passengers are sitting, they all are finding those seats in the seat plan. So we're not having any issues with passengers sitting in seats that don't exist, which is good. But we are seeing that there are 7 seats that no passenger is choosing. So how do we get, instead of the 578 rows of our data set, how do we get that down to just those 7 that we're interested in? So this is where we control the join type a little bit. So we include the right side of that join, and now you can see that value has gone up to 585 in the join result. But we actually don't want the seats that are being sat in, so we can remove the inner part of that join just by clicking there. So we get the right unmatched only values, and we just get those 7 rows that no one is sitting in those seats for. So then let's just add on a clean step to tidy this up a little bit, because we have a lot of null fields here, because there are no values in this purple work stream of where our customers are sitting. So we can go ahead and remove all of those fields. So I'm just going to take it to the metadata view just so it's easier to remove anything down here. So we need to remove the seat, the row, the class, the flow card, and the customer ID. And then we're just left with the fields that actually have data within them. And we notice that from our join, these are the fields that have been renamed that we joined on. So class-1. Oh, that's annoying. Let's rename all these fields at once with this button at the top. And we want to replace that -1. You can see it kind of shows here that it's going to remove that -1, and we want to replace it with nothing. So that when we rename those fields, we now just have class, seat, and row. Lovely, and that is the output that we're looking for, those 7 rows that represent these 7 seats that haven't been sat in. So hopefully that challenge was nice and clear and enjoyable, so thanks very much for watching.